Final score, number 9, Kansas 82. Number 1, Arizona 78. No Darryn Peterson. No problem for the Jayhawks. Norlander, we will get to the presumed number 1 pick in the 2026 NBA draft, missing yet another game under, let's just say, unusual circumstances. But first, let's just spend some time on the scene in Lawrence. Everything about it about as good as it gets. Between UConn St. John's on Friday, Duke, North Carolina on Saturday, Michigan State, Illinois on Saturday, Kansas, Arizona on Monday. College basketball's on quite a little run here.
Yeah, it's on a heater, and that environment pulsing through the TV screen here in my office last night. I know you're in the hotel in Midtown Manhattan watching that, and just incredible environment. Allen Fieldhouse is just a place that you need to get to if you've never been. You've been there. I've been there. It's a phenomenal place, and you're a building truster, obviously. I'm a building lover, and I love that building, and I love what those buildings can do for this sport in the thick of conference season. And yes, the game going in unexpectedly, like literally less than 30 minutes before tip, got a downgrade and a curveball with no Peterson. We'll get there in a second. But even without him on the floor, Kansas showed up in such impressive fashion. Arizona played a nice game until about, 6.5 to go, when it felt like the Fog Allen gods put a lid on that rim. They could not score from close. They missed a ton of bunnies. Mighty impressive by Kansas. And I think my biggest takeaway from the game was, in absence of Peterson being available, you saw how well Flory Badunga played again with his double-double. Melvin Council Jr., although he did not have a nice night shooting from the field, he still had numerous moments in that game where he was propelling Kansas forward to the chance to win the game, obviously. Even Trey Wright, who didn't have a big night, hit some key foul shots down the stretch. McDowell played well. Bryson Tiller had good moments. To me, it feels like the Kansas win has to be so morale boosting in that locker room. Not that they didn't think they were good. They knew they were good. You had the undefeated number 1 team at full strength in your building. You took the punches, you were shorthanded, and you won it without Peterson. I think that this win has a shelf life that will last into March, whenever they get caught in a big moment in the Big 12 semis or the Big 12 title game or in a Sweet 16 matchup. You go back to this specific win. Now, they still got to go to play at Arizona in a couple of weeks, Parrish, at the end of this month. So who knows how that'll go and if Arizona will exact a damning revenge on the Jayhawks. But whatever, you got that win in your building, and you could see it on Bill Self's face. That was the kind of night where it will probably rank among the 10 or 12 most memorable wins of his entire career, considering the circumstances. And I would be remiss to not mention that the past couple of years, up and down for Kansas' standards. A lot of frustration in and around that program by the fan base. And now this team is such a drastic personality change. I loved what I saw on Monday in Lawrence.
I thought the visuals connected to Bill Self after the game were notable. He's a pretty even kill guy. I've seen him win Final Four games and not look that overjoyed. I've seen him win Final Four games and not be that satisfied. And he even said multiple times last night, like, we didn't play well, but what a win. And he did say, I think the quote was, this place won the game tonight. Allen Fieldhouse won this game tonight. And it really did feel like that. And because we were active on social media last night, you get a lot of feedback from Kansas fans. And, I got some where you could just pick up on the vibes are really good right now. And like you noted, they haven't been that way for at least a few years. The program has dipped. Bill's had his health concerns. The Darryn Peterson thing has just been weird. But last night, the scrappy underdog Kansas found a way to win a game. Melvin Cancel wasn't efficient, but he was impactful. And the feedback I was getting from Kansas fans is they are falling in love with this team. They are frustrated by the Darryn Peterson experience, but they are falling in love with the Melvin Council era of Kansas basketball. And I do think that's notable in the transfer era, where it feels like so many players are just hired guns and they're bouncing from one campus to other. I know I've talked to coaches, I'm certain you have too, who feel like they've lost something connected to their program, that the players don't care about it the way that they wish they would because they're only here for a few months and they weren't here last year and they probably won't be here next year. But just because that might be a thing, it doesn't have to be the thing. And Melvin Council is perhaps an example of that. You talk to Bill Self, you listen to anybody around that program, he has immersed himself in that campus, immersed himself in the history, immersed himself in that program, and that logo means something to him. And, you know, Boog and Fran had the call last night, and I think they told the story at one point where he just sort of said, somebody's got to lead this team. Nobody seems to be wanting to do it. I guess I'm going to make it my team. And it looks like it's his team. Darryn Peterson's the star, sure, but that's Melvin Council's team, and it was a fun outfit. They're on a roll right now.
Yeah, and we'll, you know, just as a general reminder for folks that might be thinking like, all right, Council, okay, he came from St. Bonaventure. Is this his last season? No, this is his third year of Division I ball. He started at Wagner, then played at Bonaventure, is now at Kansas. Should be poised to log another season next season with KU, I believe. His eligibility clock still allows for that. So it was incredible. On Arizona, I don't know if I do or don't buy the idea that getting a loss can help you and eliminate some of the pressure. Maybe that is true. I honestly think it depends on the team. It depends on the coach. It depends on the players. If Arizona had won this game and had made a march toward March with an undefeated record, I'm not necessarily convinced that would have been a bad thing or something that would have precluded it from winning a national title. But now that is out of the way and off the table. I do think the loss is not just understandable because of the venue and the opponent and the coach and all of that. Like, all of that is true. But 82-78, and Arizona was unordinarily inefficient with its shots down the stretch, and buckets that normally will fall against really good teams just didn't fall last night. I know there was the free throw disparity as well. You had Arizona take 14, Kansas take 25. Tommy Lloyd's not going to have any of that. The non-travel call, which should have been a travel call against Badunga, was a big one. He got the bucket, and then Kansas proceeded to go on a significant run there that did swing the outcome in Kansas's favor. But Arizona, to me, still, in light of the loss, has a case as the best team in the country. This is a completely understandable loss. Kansas, by nature of winning at GP, has one of the 5 best wins. You know, it wasn't on the road, but at home, undefeated number 1. That's a highly ranked win there. So Burries, I thought, was really, really good. He thought he had Badunga on an island, and that was a welcome to the big show moment when he swatted that away. And I think the defining play of the night, you needed to see a little more from Koa Pete. Jaden Bradley only had 6 points, which I thought was notable. So Arizona's going to be fine. This was way more about Kansas rising to the moment and declaring that with or without Darryn Peterson, we can be a Final Four and arguable national title contender.
Yeah, on the block, that's a layup at Peach Jam. It's a block at Allen Fieldhouse.
Yeah.
That's what that is. As for Arizona, I've talked to coaches, several of them, most notably John Calipari, who have taken a 0 in the loss column pretty deep into the season, and about the pressure that comes with that. And reasonable minds can disagree. What they mostly say is you chase perfection while you can, because why not? It's history. When you take the loss, you spin it into a good thing. When you take the loss, you say, hey, this is a reset moment. We needed that. Hey, the pressure's off. Nobody's chasing undefeated anymore. You want to chase it while you can. You don't want to take a loss. But when you do, you spin it into a positive. I imagine that's what Tommy will do here. Let's get to Darryn Peterson. As you noted, it was a late scratch, officially flu-like symptoms, but still weird. I'm not going to question the young man's how he felt. I've had the flu. It's not great. But the reason this becomes a bigger thing than it otherwise would be is because he is the presumed number 1 pick in the draft and because he has missed a lot of games for reasons that are at least unusual. We see players try to fight through cramps. He doesn't appear to. We've seen players play with the flu. There's actually a basketball thing called the flu game. You can Google that. He did not try to go through it. What do you make of what we saw last night?
The drama that just will not end. What actually exacerbated the issue was that he was on the floor for warmups. And so then, to the surprise of many, he didn't come back out with the team as the game got closer, wasn't listed in the starting lineup, which gets distributed in official capacity shortly before the game starts. And so that got to be like, what's going on? And then Kansas made an effort to notify not just the press on hand. I reached out and they said he's out, flu-like symptoms, can't go, whatever. I'm not going to get on a podcast on national television on YouTube and say that Darryn Peterson didn't actually have flu-like symptoms and wasn't sick. He very well could have, but it's one thing after another. And it is why, like you use the phrase, presumed number one pick. I'm just not presuming that yet. I am so ready to get there when he can play 5 games in a row at full capacity, 30 plus minutes. It's just, he's missed almost half the games this season. Just still remain there. I have never seen anything like this before, ever. There's never been a player that is so preternaturally talented that has been less available for more reasons that have brought about curiosity, cynicism, and skepticism than Darryn Peterson. I hope, broken record time, folks. This has got to be the 10th time I've said this on the show this season. I hope that we have talked about Darryn Peterson missing playing time for the last time on this podcast.
Oh, I can't wait to do it again next Tuesday. I can't wait to do it again next Tuesday. No, it's a mess. Like, I don't love it. I'm like you. I'm not going to question. Just like we have seen players play with cramps, we've also seen players be sidelined by cramps. Just like we've seen players play with the flu, we've seen people be sidelined with flu-like symptoms. Like, this is all real stuff. But maybe I'm projecting here. But if my reputation was already what his reputation is becoming, and quite literally the only reason at this point I think he wouldn't be the number one pick is because of stuff like this. If it's a basketball evaluation, in my eyes, it looks pretty easy. If my reputation were in the place where his is now, again, I know I might be projecting, but I'd like to think at least I'd walk up to my coach at some point and say, Coach, I have the flu. I feel terrible. But put me in the starting lineup. I got to give it a go because I need the world to see me look sick as opposed to just hear that I am sick, because I don't want what's going to follow the statement that says he's out again, this time with flu-like symptoms, even though his own coaching staff thought he was going to play an hour before tip-off. I would just be trying to avoid that. Perhaps it's just performative or optics, but I don't love that once again he missed a game and the whole world's going, really, man? Really? This is the... Again, perhaps projecting, you'd have to just, come get me off the court. I'm too sick to even walk off. But I'd have
undefeated number one in your building.
Yeah. I don't miss that. I know it's easier to say from this seat than it is from his. I'd have a hard time missing that game. And again, for whatever it's worth, his own coaching staff did not think he was missing that game. An hour before tip-off. It's unusual. We'll see where it goes from here. Up next for Arizona, Texas Tech at home on Saturday. Up next for Kansas, Saturday at Iowa State.